So there are two types of molecules that you will learn about in your exploration of chemistry if you don't already know them. They're called polar and nonpolar. Polar molecules have a positive end and a negative end, and they behave like a little tiny magnet. So this is a clump of magnetic stuff that we have laying in our house. And notice it just all kind of clumped up together, right? That's a magnet, that's a magnet, that's a magnet, that's a magnet. There's some magnetic stuff, that's a magnetic rock. All just clumped up. Whereas nonpolar molecules, they don't clump up like little magnets. That's just not something that they would do. So we say that a polar molecule is called hydro, meaning water, philic, meaning loving. So a polar molecule is a hydrophilic molecule. And water is an example of a polar molecule. It loves itself, right? But other molecules that are polar would also interact well with water and would dissolve well with water. Nonpolar molecules, on the other hand, are called hydrophobic. Hydro meaning water, phobic meaning fear. So the next time someone doesn't want to get in the pool, you could say, oh, stop being so hydrophobic. Because water fear is literally called hydrophobia. And this would be example would be oil, right? If you have vegetable oil and you dump it into some water, you get the layers, right? Because those two do not mix. So the experiment that you guys are going to do today involves a sand that has been treated with a material that makes it hydrophobic. It's called hydrophobic sand. And so this sand is water-fearing. And the fun thing about it, my baby's foot there, the fun thing about it is that when you take it, and I dropped a droplet of water in there, you can see the water droplet just hangs out on top. Because the water is polar and the sand is nonpolar. And so I've got a series of little experiments that we're going to do to demonstrate hydrophilic and hydrophobic. And you'll be doing that today. But you can play around with it, and I'll show you in this video a few more of the experiments we're going to do. But look, it looks wet for about a second, and then all that water clumps up. Why? Water's polar, sand is nonpolar. Now this stuff was actually originally developed to clean up oil spills. So if there's a big spill of oil out in the ocean somewhere, this sand would be dumped on top of it, and it would absorb oil, but it would not absorb water. So that was its original purpose. That's what it was originally developed. And if I had some vegetable oil, and I dumped this in vegetable oil, it would be wet, but not from the water, from vegetable oil. So this video is going to explain some more of the experiments that we're going to be doing today. All right, helper man, this is just regular dirt. Okay. Sand, I should say, because there's a lot of sand in here. It's from our yard. And this one is our sand that's been treated with a chemical. I want you to stick a finger in the blue one. Tell me how it feels. What does it feel like?
Feels like sand. It feels funny. It's on my best.
Okay, stop. I'm going to have you stick your hand in the regular sand and our sand that's been treated, and you tell me if you can feel a difference.
I feel a little difference.
No, you haven't tried the other one yet.
I feel a little difference.
What's the difference?
This one's more, like dirty since it's mixed. This one feels more squishy. This one feels more rocky. Okay, thank you. What do you think's going to happen when we take this regular old sand and dirt and put it in the water, helper? Mud.
You think it's going to become mud? All right, dump it in.
I feel it.
Just kind of sits at the bottom.
Okay, I feel it.
You can stick your hand in and feel it.
Feels a little. It's like dust water in there.
Okay. Now let's... what happened when we put the dirt into water. Now let's see what happens when we put this. I'm going to pour it, bud. When we put this into our water. What's happening?
Okay. Let me look. It shakes like a rattle.
Look at the bottom. Look at that. Look at it. What does it look like?
the ocean. It looks like tectonic plate.
Kind of does look like a tectonic plate. Let's put some more in. It'll actually float on the surface until it gets too heavy, and then it sinks to the bottom. But look down there. You see all those little bubbles on it?
Yes, I do.
It's clumping up. Look at our regular old dirt. Regular old dirt, does it clump up like that? No. Now, helper man, this is where I need you.
What?
Stick your hand in there and touch one of those. Look at the sample. Stick your hand and tell me what that clump feels like. Is it wet or dry?
Kind of dry.
It is dry. The sand, even though it's in water, is it wet or dry?
Dry.
It's totally dry.
What the package said.
And what about this? Stick your hand in that. Touch the dirt.
It's
wet. It's wet. That's right.
It's absorbing.
It does absorb the water. You're right. Does this sand absorb water?
No.
No, it does not.
It just keeps it out.
That's right. So we have poured a little bit of a layer on the top, and as we know, it floats. It wants to be as far away from the water molecules as possible. So now my helper is going to pour some water on top, and we're going to see what happens. All right, squeeze some on there, man. Keep going. Keep squeezing. There we go. Make a big droplet. Look. What did it do?
It's keeping it float.
It's just sitting on top. That's right. So does the water want to be near the sand? Hey,
Okay.
does the water want to be near the sand? No, it doesn't. Why don't you reach in there with your hand? You just squirted water on there. Touch that on the top and tell me, does it feel wet or dry?
It's moving.
It's moving. And is it wet or dry?
It's wet.
Well, the water underneath is wet, but what
But
about
it's dry.
the sand is dry. That's right. Now we're going to filter our mixtures and then find out if it's wet or dry.
What do you mean filter?
Well, filters, just like a coffee filter, right? The coffee grounds stay in and the liquid goes through.
It's like a coffee brewer.
Exactly. Now hold this one. That
It's
one.
like this coffee brewer.
Well, you wouldn't want to drink this. And now we're going to filter the other one. We got an unhappy camper over there. All right, now we're gonna let those filter for a minute, and we'll be right back. So we've let these filter. Now, helper, touch the one that has regular sand in it. How does it feel? Wet or dry?
Wet.
Okay. Now use this finger so that it doesn't. How does this one feel?
Dry.
Isn't that cool? It was completely wet. We poured it in completely wet. This one stays dry. This one is
Wet.
awesome.